What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Going to talk about Billy Break's top 8 deck list from YCS Indy. This was definitely one of the best meta picks that I've seen in a very long time. And you know what? When people don't think a deck is viable, as I didn't really believe that Inzektors were that viable, and the format and the meta has shifted to where cards that used to hurt you aren't played as much, that's when the deck actually becomes a sleeper. That's when the deck can creep up on you and it can start taking away wins because people don't side much for it, because the matchups are there in its favor, so on and so forth. And Billy made an excellent pick with Inzektors today. Let's go over the deck list first. 1 copy of Inzektor Hornet, 1 copy of Inzektor Dragonfly because they're both limited, 3 copies of Inzektor Centipede, 1 copy of Inzektor Gigamantis, 3 copies of Inzektor Ladybug, 2 copies of Effect Veiler, 2 copies of Max C, 2 copies of Mystic Tomato, 1 copy of Dark Arm Dragon, 1 copy of Sangan, 2 copies of Card Trooper, 2 copies of Zexcalibur, 3 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon, 2 copies of Pot of Duality, 1 copy of Monster Born, 1 copy of Heavy Storm, 1 Book of Moon, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Dark Hole, 1 copy of Forbidden Lance, 2 copies of Bottomless Trap Hole, 3 copies of Call of the Haunted, 2 copies of Solemn Warning, and 1 copy of Solemn Judgment. That is the Solemn Brigade. The first thing I noticed about Billy's deck was that he's maxing out on Call of the Haunted. That makes absolutely perfect sense because Inzektors need their monsters to go off, and this deck isn't hurt by Bottomless at all. You look at Torrential Tribute and Solemn Warning being pretty much the only cards that are going to wreck Inzektors if they try and summon something, because Ladybug is 500 attack, Dragonfly is just as powerful as it was before, and that card is only 1000 attack. So Bottomless doesn't really do much to the deck. And cards like Mirror Force and Deep Prison don't hurt the deck at all because chances are you're not going to be attacking into any back row. So you can just sit and blow up their cards, and you know they have cards on the field that aren't really going to do anything, aren't going to threaten you. So if for some reason they stop your summon, then you can just call the Haunted your monster back and just continue on as you were before. Another thing is it's a +1 anytime you add it with Card Trooper. Your opponent activates Heavy Storm. You know, they target your Call to Haunted. It's like activate Call to Haunted, get my Card Trooper back, I go +1. Get my Sangan back, I go +1 as well. Another thing, a lot of just the key cards and why this was such a beautiful meta pick is you look at the key cards of the format. Thunder King Ryo, Snowman Eater for Monsters, D Prison, Bottomless. Those cards don't really hurt this deck. It's not like you can Bottomless a Card Trooper. You can't Bottomless a Mystic Tomato. You know what I mean? Sangan has a very good resistance against Mirror Force, and Inzektors just basically blow up a lot of what the meta is right now. Zexcalibur is freaking back. The reason why is because it makes your Inzektors very difficult to get over when they're done blowing up stuff and they finally want to attack. It makes your Inzektors get a lot bigger, and then if your opponent does have that dark hole or they do have a way to get around your monster, you know, outside of your own defense, then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to get an Inzektor back, so I'm going to continue my play next turn, preferably Dragonfly. Like, Inzektor just restores order. It restores like the advantage that the deck can lose on your opponent's turn. So I definitely think that that's a cool card in here. I think that it's absolutely necessary. The regional top 8 deck that I saw from the New York regionals that just happened, he was running double Inzektors or double Zexcalibur too. Dark Arm seems like it's back. It looks like, you know, it makes perfect sense. The deck lost, you know, multiple Dragonflies and multiple Hornets, so it did suffer in that sense. But Dark Arm is just potent. It's a behemoth of a card. It's not really that hard to summon in this deck, considering you can take Dark Side of your graveyard at will with Hornet and Ladybug, so it makes perfect sense. Another thing that I liked in this deck is, and it makes sense, I didn't like it at first, but now it actually does make sense. If he would have maxed out on hoppers, those things would have been they would have gotten Bottomless like all day and night. But the fact that he was playing Ladybugs, it's not like you just can't summon Ladybug, pop a card on your opponent's side of the field, and then set a Bottomless and just protect your Ladybug, or put a sword on it and you've got a 1300 monster that can do some damage. You know, protect it with like a Bottomless for a turn, protect it with a Lance for a turn, and then again, it's going to blow up more cards as well. Not to mention the fact that it can alternate, you know, the other monsters' levels, so you can make Gachi with it. You can make everything up to Crimson Ninja and Photon Strike Bouncer with this deck. So, I look at Inzektors, and I don't think that they're a tier 1 deck. I don't even think that they're amazing right now, but I think the way that the meta is shaping, this is one of the best picks because you look at all the main deck cards people are running: Snowman, D Prison, Thunder King. I'm sorry, but Hornet just rates all that shit. So Definitely thought that Billy Brake was very wise with his meta pick, and I want to know what you guys' thoughts on it was. Thank you guys for watching as always.